against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, cut-breaking news, culture, matic warfare. Will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. Lots to cover today. I think a lot of us are feeling it in our bones. We're bored. The price is at 64,893. A week ago it was at 70,000. We're like crabbing. It seems like it's going to be like a slow summer, but you guys got to remember back in the day, I think it was the cycle of 2021. We bottomed out at 3,500. We went all the way up to 15,000. It was like this like fake pump. We went back down to like 6,000. And then we had this epic move all the way down, all the way up to 60K. So it seems like we're having that same kind of mid-cycle consolidation. But I think the question on a lot of people's minds is, does this have to do with the ETFs? Are the ETFs suppressing the price? Is Larry Fink suppressing the price? What is going on? You're hearing about all these ETF inflows, these record inflows, but the price isn't going anywhere. Who is selling Bitcoin? Well, we have all of that for you guys today. I think it's a combination of some institutions playing some shenanigans. It's some OGs that have been in the market for a long time, class of 2013. And for them, $64,000 Bitcoin is insane. These are people that bought Bitcoin at like $150, $200, $300, right? So we're going to talk about all that. But the good news is this, guys. The more Bitcoin consolidates at these prices, the bigger the boom. And I think we're all expecting the boom happening in 2025. And I think it's going to be absolutely glorious, in my opinion. So just stay humble, stack sats, enjoy the summer, go outside, touch some grass, take advantage of these prices going sideways. Like it would, when the price of Bitcoin goes up, it's kind of bittersweet. Like it's like, yeah, sweet. My net worth is going up. It's wonderful. Great. But at the same time, you lose the ability to buy Bitcoin at cheaper prices. Me and Opti remember when you could buy 1 million Satoshis for $100. It was absolutely nuts. We were at those levels for, a couple of years, but those days are long gone. So enjoy it and take every day, one day at a time. Enjoy the present. Wow, I'm almost feeling like Opti saying all this stuff. Anyway, so we got all the sauce for you guys. Also in other news as well, the Orange Man continues to use Bitcoin on the campaign trail. These aren't libertarian conferences. These are just like regular political conferences, and he continues to drop Bitcoin by name. Who would have thought? We have the newest video for you guys as well. And also in Texas, I absolutely love the great state of Texas. We have the Texas grid operator ERCOT CEO Pablo Vegas explaining how Bitcoin is actually good for the grid, how Bitcoin becomes the buyer of last resort for electricity, further stabilizing the grid because the grid doesn't have to guesstimate. They don't have to anticipate how much electricity usage is going to happen on any given day because they know that they have a buyer of last resort, which are the Bitcoin miners, and the Bitcoin miners have the ability to shut off whenever the power is needed, right? So again, breaking the Overton window. The Overton window is shattering. It's continuing to shift. I'm going to stick by my original call out, which is by 2028, I think it's going to be absolutely impossible to have an anti-Bitcoin stance as a politician because of the percentage of the population that are actively holding Bitcoin. So it's going to be a great show for you guys. We have so much lined up. I want to bring up my legendary co-host. It's a Nico episode today. I'm excited. We haven't had one of these in a while. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, dude. I don't know if you saw me in the back end, but you had me cracking up, bro. Go outside, touch some grass. It's the summertime. Yeah, man. It's I think that's been the best advice for a while. Guys, log off Twitter. No one's saying anything productive on Twitter, really. Price is doing what it's going to do. Make sure you are trying to get your cash flow up, and so you can stack as many sats as possible. But man, feels good. I'm still a little sore. I can't wait to get back into the gym. Shouts out to Sal. But other than that, man, life's great.
Sal is the man. Shout out Sal, bro.
Yeah,
Sal is. We're gonna bring him on the show, man.
We should bring him back on.
Anyways, dude, what do you have lined up for the culture, brother?
All right, guys. So it is a Nico and Opti show. And I saw this chart yesterday coming out of, I forget what the Twitter account was, but it's coming out of the Fed, St. Louis Federal Reserve. And it really highlights what we say here on this show every single day about fiat being a worldview of nihilism, pessimism, of war, and how Bitcoin is the complete opposite, a world where your life gets cheaper, everything gets better. So I am going to go a little chart boy on you guys, but in the different manner than you're used to. It's not going to be TA trading Bitcoin prices. I think this chart is very revealing of the current state of the world. And of course, I'm going to bring up my favorite site, the US Debt Clock, to make my point even stronger. But man, I don't know. I saw this chart yesterday and it absolutely blew my mind. Maybe I'm just so far in the weeds that I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, man, I think this one chart coming out of the Federal Reserve is really going to prove our point that fiat is a worldview of war, and the fiat currencies continue to perpetuate war, and there's no way we're ever going to be able to pay off this debt. So I'm excited for this. I don't think Nico's seen it yet, but this is going to be a good one. I'm sure Nico's going to get triggered. We might get a little Nico Jones on today's show.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited. Guys, buckle up. It's going to be an incredible show. Lots to talk about, lots to unpack. But before we jump into it, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Of course, I'm talking about bitcoinwell.com. Buy real Bitcoin and enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. All you got to do is you put in your email, you get started. It's incredibly easy. The onboarding takes like 5 minutes. It's a clear 1% spread. It's obviously Bitcoin only, and it's completely non-custodial. That's what makes Bitcoin Well different from all the rest. Non-custodial basically means that that they don't hold your Bitcoin. As soon as your funds clear, your Bitcoin goes directly to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, right? We love Bitcoin Well because it enables the Bitcoin revolution, and the Bitcoin revolution is self-custody. So support Bitcoin by default, Bitcoin self-custody by default, Bitcoin on-ramps like Bitcoin Well. Also, if you're an existing customer of Bitcoin Well, every time you've been buying Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you've been earning Bitcoin Well points, and you can use those points towards the Bitcoin wishing well. You could throw a coin into the Bitcoin wishing well. You could redeem some of those points, and you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. So I'm going to throw a coin in there. I'm going to leave the QR code up for you guys. First one to scan it wins it. And we won 500 sats. I'm going to do it one more time. Throw a coin in there in the Bitcoin wishing well, and boom. So first person to scan the QR code, you get 500 sats. By the way, if you sign up using Simply BTC on Bitcoin Well, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well, absolutely free. So guys, support self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramps like bitcoinwell.com. Head over, get started, and support the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. All right, everybody, let's head on to the numbers. Lots to talk about.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's Do-It-Yourself Kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stampseed.
All right, everybody, head over to stampseed.com, store your generational wealth, stamp it on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. You can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their website. Go check out stampseed.com today. All right, everybody. So let's get to today's price. 65,000 flat. Sats per dollar, 1,538. Block height, 848,641. Blocks to halving, 201,359. Halving estimate, March 25th, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,841 BTC. Capacity value, 314 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation, 1.58%. Market capitalization, 1.28 trillion. And Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.01%. In the grand scheme of things, the party is just getting started. Anyways, I wanted to get to this. This is absolutely crazy. Shout out to Vivek, by the way. Vivek was the one that got all of this started. And then, of course, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back was as soon as the Biden administration locked some of us in a box, as soon as they charged the Bitcoin privacy developers, they went after Roger Ver. They were trying to make an example of Bitcoiners, basically saying, no, you can't use Bitcoin to escape inflation. You can't use Bitcoin. You can't use unconfiscatable wealth. What are you talking about? A Swiss bank account in your wallet? You're a danger to national security. Well, no, a lot of us don't feel that way. And of course, multiple politicians saw that opportunity and they capitalized on it. Of course, I'm talking about RFK Jr., talking about Ron DeSantis, I'm talking about Vivek Ramaswamy, and of course, I'm talking about the Orange Man, I'm talking about Donald Trump. Now, what's different about Donald Trump and the other guys and the rest of the guys, even though they're awesome, I love RFK, I love Vivek, is that Donald Trump actually has a chance of winning, and he is the Republican candidate for president. And he included it into his campaign, basically saying, look, I'm going to free Ross, which has become a figurehead for the Bitcoin movement. I'm going to protect the right to self-custody. I'm going to be anti-CBDC. And I want Bitcoin miners to mine in the United States. I want Bitcoin to be created in the United States. Now, we know that Biden has changed tune. We know that now he's basically, you know, trying to walk it back and saying, actually, I'm accepting donations in quote unquote crypto. Actually, you know, we want to meet with the Bitcoin industry leaders. But you know what? Talk is cheap. Action is loud. Biden right now, he's the one in office. He has the power to free Ross today. Is he going to do it? I don't know. We shall see. Anyways, let's hear what the Orange Man has to say. One of his latest campaign rallies. Let's check it out.
To further secure America's future and create opportunity for young people, I will end Joe Biden's war on crypto. We will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in America. Otherwise, other countries are going to have it.
So, I mean, very interesting also. He said crypto, but he also said Bitcoin, right? A little differentiator there, which I find fascinating. And of course, he knows that this is popular with his voters. He knows that he's pandering to voters because that's what politicians do. But it's a testament to the power of the Bitcoin movement. I can't emphasize that enough. If Bitcoin wasn't powerful enough, if the voter demographic wasn't big enough, politicians wouldn't even bring it up. They're bringing it up because they feel like it will get them votes to get elected. Now, I know what a lot of people are saying, like Nico, Donald Trump could just rug pull. Absolutely. But the Overton window has shifted. And you can't bring that back. You can't put that back into Pandora's box. Like, that's been open. The genie is out of the bottle. And I think it's just a matter of time before people or a politician running for president starts to ask a very important question. Why is inflation a thing? Why should people use money that, you know, debases? Why should people use money that loses purchasing power? Why am I being forced to do this via legal tender laws? The moment that's said, it's like the other person, the other candidate is not going to have a good response because there is no good response. What they're hoping for is that you remain uninformed, right? And this is why we call this narrative trench warfare. And this is a war for the hearts and minds of individuals. So don't get distracted by the left, right, liberal, conservative bullshit, because it's divide and conquer. Anyways, in other news, this is insane. This is crazy. So this is a testimony in front of, I think this is like the something Texas, like a committee in Texas, a Texas Senate committee. And we had the ERCOT CEO, Pablo Vegas, and he's explaining some things in regards to Bitcoin mining. This is amazing, guys. We've made so much effing progress. Let's check this out.
What would be more helpful for ERCOT is to have more visibility to what these large loads are doing. And so a good place to start could be making sure we can track and even potentially control the loads of cryptos, because cryptos are a unique business. Their use of energy is tied directly to the cost of electricity and the cost of Bitcoin. And so when either of those fluctuate, they either turn on or turn off based on whether they will make money mining. And so it would be very easy for them to be controlled by ERCOT, because we could take their parameters. They could tell us when they want to run at what energy costs, and we could then ramp them up and down based on the price and scarcity of electricity that's available. That would be a much safer way to work closely with crypto mining from a grid operator point of view.
So, I mean, it's, and he says it, right? And again, like this shifts the Overton window. Like you can't, you can't, like the New York Times article where they doctored the image to make it seem like, the same image that they doctored with Joe Rogan when he took that medicine that was not approved by the powers that be, and then they doctored the image to make it seem like his face was green and all that shit. No, when you have these types of conversations in front of congressional testimony, you're moving that fucking Overton window, you're moving it. Take a drink, guys, I said it. And you can no longer convince the public, because you have to understand that this misinformation, these narratives, this propaganda, all right, because we got to be honest here, legacy media is worse than the official state newspaper of the USSR called Pravda. Okay, and the reason that it's worse is because everyone knew that the official newspaper of the USSR was absolute bullshit. The problem with legacy media is that they basically promote themselves. They come out as if, democracy dies in darkness. You have to take us seriously because we are the official news source and all the other news sources are bullshit. Do you guys remember that video of all those news channels, right? And it's like, this is a danger to democracy. And they're all repeating the same fucking line, all of them, right? That era is slowly dying. And the reason that it's dying is because the internet has empowered individuals all over the world, mass scale, peer-to-peer communication. We don't get our news sources from a handful of legacy media outlets. And what the last 4 to 5 years has shown, I call it the Great Awakening, the great disintermediation of information, is that those legacy media outlets are just propagandists. They're just bullshitting you. Like, that's what, like, I would rather trust the guy who is talking about smoking DMT and killing elk with the crossbow, and I would rather trust that guy, or the guy that gets fired from Fox News because he told too much truth, than the people in the suit trying to tell me that they know what's best for me. Or I love the Chinese state media one where the guy was like, yeah, if Bitcoin takes over, we're all going to die. Like, it's so blatantly obvious. It's time to wake up. It's time for you to do your own research. So the reason I'm playing you these clips is you have potentially the president of the United States saying, let's bring Bitcoin businesses here. Bitcoin is good for young people. And of course, you have testimony in front of the Texas Senate committee basically saying, like, look, like, it's actually good for the grid that Bitcoin miners come here. This is actually positive. This is actually a good thing, right? So Opti, what's your take on this? Brother, you've been in the hot seat with me. You've been my right-hand man throughout this whole process. We've been piloting this plane through fucking hurricanes and all this propaganda bullshit. We're seeing we're seeing cows fly in the tornadoes and stuff. It's been absolutely bonkers, right? And what I gotta say also, Opti, is like, it can't be that two, one Mexican, one Venezuelan, no background in journalism whatsoever. Just two people that feel very passionately about Bitcoin and that, you know, coincidentally love the truth as well. It can't be that somehow we are more right about shit consistently than the official narrative with the suits and the guys in TV. It can't be it, man. And that's what I gotta say. That's what I gotta say. I gotta walk away from this, man, because we're already starting it hot. What's your take, brother?
It's just on that last point. Like I said it all the time. Once you reprogram your mind around the Bitcoin fundamentals, it's a lot easier to predict where the future is going. And then once you also realize just how illegitimate and fake all of the legacy media and the institutions really are, you start to really see through the veil, and you realize that basically all of the official numbers coming out of the, you know, the trusted experts are all fake. And you realize that you're in a position right now, and I've said this a long time, and I haven't said it on the show in a minute, that it's like watching Saturday morning cartoons. You're watching, you know, Wile E. Coyote run off the cliff, and only Bitcoiners have looked down at their feet and realized that we are completely detached from reality, and something needs to be fixed. Like something is going to give. And you can't trust these people. You can't trust anyone in Washington, D.C. coming out of the legacy media to tell you the truth. They're all mouthpieces for, you know, the corporation, for the lobbying groups, for the real people that control the world. And you're going to have to protect yourself. And we think the best way to protect yourself is obviously by saving your wealth in Bitcoin. And okay, tangent ended on that one. So going to that Donald Trump clip, I really like the narrative that he's kind of shaping in that video. One, of course, we've said this before, you know, further America by adopting and embracing Bitcoin versus fighting it, which we've been going through the last, 18 months or so. And then the part that probably hit the hardest for all of us here in the chat, I'm guessing most of us are either like millennial-ish and maybe some Gen Xers, but some Zoomers as well, is that most of us millennials and young people, and I'm sure if you're on social media, you're seeing this trend happen as well, that a lot of us are being disenfranchised. We're all wondering like how to survive right now with inflation rates. People are working more jobs than ever, and we're still broker than ever. And so I really like how he said further the opportunity for young people, because I don't know if you've noticed, but we're basically in a, how do you say, geriocracy here, where we have the people ruling in power should basically be in retirement homes. And now they're the ones that are controlling not only where the future is going, but all of the capital right now. And so you can see that there's one side of the aisle is, for the most part, pandering to the older generations. And at least Trump is realizing, or at least his PR campaign is noticing, that the young generation are disenfranchised, and they have to try to get our votes because we're the ones that are going to inherit America. And if you keep ostracizing us, then more people are going to become nihilistic and tune out. And it really kind of goes back to a lot of things we say here on the show. This is why we always say to take the power back upon yourself and start saving in Bitcoin. And I really like how he's also making sure to always say Bitcoin, even though, of course, he's saying crypto, because there's people out there that consider themselves, crypto people versus just Bitcoin only. And I think it's very important that he is always saying, even though he does say crypto, he does say, I'll protect crypto. And of course, I'll protect Bitcoin as well. Like saying the B word, I think is definitely going where Nico always says, blowing the Overton window. And on that note, I do have to give another shout out to the BMag team. Shouts out the Bitcoin Magazine for meeting with Trump. And of course, the Bitcoin miners out there, they obviously have done a great job, I'm guessing, in stressing the point of the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. And of course, it's Bitcoin, not crypto. It's Bitcoin only. Bitcoin is the only thing that really matters. Everything else is gambling. They're all trash as far as I'm concerned. Maybe at times we go into some are blatant scams, but it's Bitcoin only, and everything else is riding the coattails of Bitcoin. And so I love that politicians are actually saying Bitcoin in good light versus blaming all of the world's problems on Bitcoin. And yes, of course, it's political pandering. And if we get another rug pull with Trump, maybe people will wake up to the fact that it's all fake and illegitimate. But I don't think we're there yet. I still kind of conversate with some normies here and there. Even my family is pretty much normies. And they all still, for some reason, seem to believe that there is some legitimacy coming out of the legacy media, out of the politicians. And it really blows my mind. I said this before. It always reminds me of the Dave Chappelle being the president meme, Dave Chappelle in politics. And I'm like, that's what I see every time I see politicians. Anyways, on the ERCOT vid, I can't wait to see more states follow suit, implementing Bitcoin mining on the state level and improve electricity grids. And hopefully as well, bring down our electricity prices and stabilize the grid in general. And then on that note, on the flip side, I can't wait to see more people freak out and fight Bitcoin mining because we're boiling oceans and we're going to use all of the world's electricity. And someone in the chat said rip, grin, peace. So man, it's going to get very interesting when you realize the
keep
true
up the pressure.
Yeah,
keep
the
up
true
the memes.
the true free market
truth.
capitalism that
Keep up
is
the truth.
Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining compared to centralized control of all of the institutions. So hey man, game on.
Game on. Keep up the pressure. Keep making the memes. Keep ridiculing them in the comments on Twitter. Keep embarrassing them. They don't have a response to you guys. The truth is on our side. They're running on lies and misrepresentations. Our job is just to expose them for what they are. They're liars and they're thieves. That's what it is. Anyways, guys, before we move on to the next section, I do want to give an extremely special shout out. Guys, there's literally 5 tickets left. You don't want to miss this. The Pleb Party in Nashville, Tennessee. It's July 25th, the day before the largest Bitcoin conference on planet Earth, Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville. It's going to be a 12-hour open bar party. For anyone who doesn't know for whatever reason what an open bar is, that means that liquor is included in the tickets. 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight. Pleb Party in Nashville before the day before the largest Bitcoin conference on planet Earth, Thursday, July 25th. Confirmed attendees include Press and Pitch, the entire Simply Bitcoin crew, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Adam O'Brien, many, many more. It's going to be hosted at an amazing rustic automobile factory from 1910 with brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. The last Pleb Party in Miami was sold 8 days before. This looks like it's going to be sold out way faster. Over 1,000 Bitcoiners are expected to attend. Opti and I are going to be there. Sophie's going to be there. Rustin's going to be there. John's going to be there. It's going to be an absolute pachanga. You don't want to miss it. Scan the QR code. Check the link in the video description. Get your tickets to the Pleb Party in Nashville 2024. All right, everybody, let's hit the news. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more.
All right, everybody, you want to take self-custody of your Bitcoin, because if you don't take self-custody of your Bitcoin, it's not really your Bitcoin. Don't put yourself in that situation where you get absolutely rugged, which is why you should have your Bitcoin in cold storage. And the way that you put it in cold storage is by having yourself a hardware wallet. Of course, we recommend Passport by Foundation Devices. If you pair it up with the Envoy app, it's incredibly easy to use. Scan the QR code, check the link in the video description to get started. Remember, guys, not your keys, not your cheese. All right, let's talk about another one of Opti non-ex-boyfriends. And of course, I'm talking about Larry Fink. Opti was never able to close. He peaked at Christine Lagarde. Anyways, let's talk about Larry Fink. Let's talk about BlackRock. And I think a lot of people kind of like this narrative. I've been seeing it on YouTube. I've been seeing it on Twitter for this last couple of weeks. And it's just this. I'll simplify it for you guys. Supposedly there's this record amount of inflows. We keep saying it, record inflows. We see the institutions are here. You hear El Salvador is mining Bitcoin, the Kingdom of Bhutan mining Bitcoin, Paraguay mining Bitcoin, like all this insane stuff. And remember, none of this was true back in the previous all-time high of 2021. So literally, and by the way, if you adjust the all-time high for inflation, like we haven't even broken the all-time high if you adjust it for inflation. I believe it's like 80,000 if you adjust it for inflation. So all of these bullish things are happening, but we're not reaching all-time high prices. We're like, is there suppression going on? What's going on? What's happening here? So I did a lot of research this morning and tried to get to the bottom of it. And there's three things that I ran into. First, I want to play you a clip from Natalie Burnell's show, Coin Stories. Highly recommend. Incredible podcast. Here's James Lavish making the case as how he's explaining that hedge funds are shorting Bitcoin and why this could potentially eventually lead to a gamma squeeze. So I'll play you guys the video and then we'll move on to the next piece as to why the Bitcoin price is going sideways. Let's check it out.
The trade is, and I did of arbitrage in my first 20 years on Wall Street. So the trade is, you go out and you short the futures. You're going to get 10% on that short. You're going to get paid the perpetual future rate on that 10%. You turn around and take that capital that you've taken in and you go buy underlying, you go buy the Bitcoin. Now you're hedged, right? So you don't have any exposure. Bitcoin go up and down, doesn't matter. All you care about is a premium to the futures premium to this underlying spot. And so you're trading around it, but you're getting paid 10% on that. Now, because Bitcoin, the ETF, you can't really borrow against it. You know, you can probably do things with derivatives, and I haven't seen it yet, but you can probably borrow against it, buy some more. But that's just a debt instrument. That's not creating paper Bitcoin. That's creating paper dollars. But what I've heard some hedge funds are doing is they're over shorting the future, taking in more of that perpetual interest, and then underbuying the spot, right? So it kind of keeps a lid on it. So then when Bitcoin ETFs, the underlying has to go buy that during the day because they can't buy spot during the day. They're buying futures during the day. There's plenty of supply, and I'm talking about the managers of those ETFs. They go out and buy those ETF they have to buy the underlying. They're going to buy futures, settle with Fidelity or with Fidelity's doing it themselves, but settle with BlackRock and Bitwise and all that. They're going to settle in spot. So there's going to be some cash and Bitcoin that goes. That's one thing that's going on, and that could suppress it a little bit if they lever that short up and they're over short. Well, the ones who are shorting those futures, they could get into a situation, especially if they're using options or whatever. They could get into a situation where they get into what's called a gamma squeeze, whereas the closer it gets, it really drives that acceleration of that price to like 74, 75,000 really quickly, and they have to cover, and they wind up covering right through, and it explodes through that price. Will that happen? I don't know, but that was my whole point of that the meme of the sun with Mercury underneath it. The whole point is that if you just get enough buying pressure, good luck. I mean, you're going to get your face ripped off.
Man, I absolutely love James Lavish coming in with the signal. And let's break it down also, because you could say like, Nico, maybe there's not enough interest. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers in this article, Bitcoin ETFs make 25% of BlackRock's 2024 inflows and 56% of Fidelity's. Also, something to keep in mind is the Bitcoin ETFs are the most popular ETFs in all ETF history. They're already in the top 5 of the most popular, the most used ETFs in the market right now. Also, this other article I ran into, which I found quite interesting, the publication is Crypto Slate. The headline is Bitcoin price reflects basis trade dynamics, not suppression. So it's basically making the case that no, it's not suppression that's happening, it's just the trade dynamics. So it goes on to say, since June 10th, Bitcoin has experienced a notable decline, dropping from approximately 72,000 to as low as 65,200. This drop coincides with significant activity in Bitcoin ETFs, which have seen around $580 million in outflows. This starkly contrasts the previous record-setting 19 consecutive trading days of inflows amounting to roughly $4 billion, which coincided with Bitcoin's price from around 60,000 to 70,000. The recent outflows represent approximately 4.3% of the total inflows, aligning with a roughly 10% correction in Bitcoin's price. The discrepancy has led to questions about why Bitcoin's price didn't rise despite the substantial inflows. One plausible explanation is the basis trade, a strategy employed by hedge funds and investors. In this strategy, investors go long on the underlying spot ETF products and short the futures market. This is what James Lavish was referring to, I believe, creating a net neutral trade that protects them regardless of whether the price goes up or down. Investors focus on the spread between the spot price and the futures price, as this differential determines the profitability of the basis trade. This approach is influenced by the current positive funding rates, which are around 6% according to CoinGlass. Traders are willing to incur higher costs to leverage long positions in Bitcoin, often using calendar futures on the CME. These futures trading at a premium up to the spot price can be rolled over through a process known as rolling forward. The CME defines this as exiting an expiring futures contracts while simultaneously entering a new one with a later expiration date. By shorting the futures market while being long on the spot market, traders create a hedge that mitigates price movements, resulting in the observed suppression of Bitcoin's price. The rolling forward strategy allows traders to maintain exposure to Bitcoin without closing their positions at contract expiration. Consequently, the Bitcoin price is less sensitive to Bitcoin inflows despite significant flows, offering a potential explanation for why it hasn't reached new all-time highs following the $4 billion influx. So according to this article, also according to that clip by James Lavish, it seems like these institutions might be playing some shenanigans, and that's exactly the reason as to why we haven't broken all-time highs. But as James Lavish so correctly pointed out towards the end, like a boss,
enough buying pressure. Good luck. I mean, you're going to get your face ripped off. The trade
right? I think they're playing with absolute fire. Now, here's another take from an OG. Of course, I'm talking about Willy Woo. And he says, and he kind of addresses it in a different light. He says, ETFs are buying, institutions are buying, who the hell is selling? 2024 brought a mass of commentators looking at ETF flows as if that's all that matters. What matters is total demand and supply. Here's a 101 thread on how the modern Bitcoin market works. First, let me tell you who's selling. This is what I mentioned in the very beginning of the show. The OGs, they are selling. They have more Bitcoin than all the ETFs put together. 10 times more. That's something to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen. The vast majority of Bitcoin, around 11 to 12 million Bitcoin, are held by not governments, not ETFs, not institutions, not Michael Saylor. It's held by individuals. And when he's referring to OGs, he's talking about people that got into Bitcoin class of 2013, class of 2012. And you know what? They're buying Bitcoin for $1, $100, nothing. So for them to be selling at $64,000, what for us are like, you never sell Bitcoin. For them, I mean, they're jaded. They've been in the game for a decade. You know, they want to cash out. Maybe they want to buy a house. You know, that could happen, right? And Willy Woo is making the case that they are who's selling. Anyways, and they sell into every bull market. This pattern is as old as the Genesis block. Chart below, the age X amount of coins being sold. So it looks like every time there's a bull market run, the older coins get to be sold. Anyways, we are now in the modern age of Bitcoin. Paper BTC has flooded the market since 2017. Futures markets. If you want to buy Bitcoin, it used to be you had to buy real Bitcoin. Now you can buy paper Bitcoin. Thus, a no coiner can sell you that paper. Together, you have made a synthetic BTC. That would be demand for BTC gets diverted to paper BTC, fulfilled by counter traders who have no BTC to sell. They just have USD to back their bet. In the old days, BTC would go on an exponential run because the only sellers was a trickle from the OGs and an even smaller amount from miners with their newly mined coins. Today, the magic of paper BTC is what you want to watch. The 2022 bear market was dictated by a flood of paper BTC when spot holders didn't really sell. In this current bull, I have marked where paper increased. These were the times when price didn't rally. We are in one of these times right now. You look at this, Bitcoin inventory on exchanges. Here's the paper plus spot BTC. Here's the spot BTC. And it goes, anyways, it goes on to say, so not a great idea to solely look at ETF buying. On-chain data, derivatives data, technical price action, all of these add to the demand and supply picture. Putting it together is an art, not a qualified science. Everyone is just making educated guesses. So he says that thing at the end. And I think that's what that's ultimately what everyone is doing, which is what we advocate for on Simply Bitcoin. Stay humble, stack sats, and time in the market beats timing the market. Okay, all of that being said, now I'm gonna just pull out my because I don't trade and I don't do any of these things. But what I will say is just based on what I've seen on the previous cycle. So we had a very similar occurrence back in I forget what it was, like 28, it was 29. Anyways, we had a fake pump. It went from 3,500, it went up to like 14,000, 15,000, and then it went back down. After it went back down, then we had that massive pump from what was like 10K all the way down, all the way up to like 69K. But we had that like mid-cycle pump. This looks very similar. We had a mid-cycle pump. A lot of people were talking about something called a left translated cycle. So they were expecting the peak to come way sooner. That turned out not to be true. And it seems like Bitcoin is following the pattern that it always follows. What is that pattern? 3 green, 1 red. You have a green year, you have a green year, you have the parabolic green year, and then you have a red year, and then it repeats. Ladies and gentlemen, it has not broken that pattern since the beginning of time. It's not rocket science. American Hodl literally has it at the top of his Twitter. I think the more you read into it, the more complicated you make it, you make it seem. I don't think it's complicated whatsoever. I think it's as simple as this: 3 green bulls and 1 red bear. That is literally it. And I think it's fitting, Opti, that we end it with this, just to cool everyone's feelings and stuff. So let's check it out. Some amazing technical analysis. We normally don't do it on Simply Bitcoin, but we're going to do it for you guys. Let's check it out.
So, as you can see here on the chart, for like 4 years, Bitcoin was in like the hundreds of dollar range. And it just kind of hung out there. Yeah, like maybe it bounced down, maybe it bounced up. But it was basically in the hundreds of dollar range for like 4 fucking years. Then it went to the thousands of dollar range. And it just stayed there. Yeah, it bounced above 10 briefly. But it went in the thousands of dollars range. Then it went to the tens of thousands of dollars range. And it stayed there for 3 fucking years. And now we're coming to the end of it. What the fuck do you think is going to happen next? You think it's going to go to the $0 range? No, it's going to $100,000 fucking dollars. It's fucking gone.
Beautiful, beautiful technical analysis. I see Opti has pulled up, so I'm going to share that. Opti, what do you have pulled up, my friend?
Oh, I just wanted to iterate on that point. 3 green, 1 red. We're at 2 years of green. We're gonna get another year of green, and then we'll get a red year. Like it's pretty simple. Keep it simple, guys. Super simple.
It's literally keep it simple. And then again, like what the tendency that I've seen is that people try to overcomplicate it. And I think that Bitcoin is following the pattern that it's always followed. And these are the times where it's just kind of going sideways and people are getting bored and people are getting kind of like antsy and all that stuff. These are the times that it's important that you zoom out. When in doubt, stay humble, stack sats, use these opportunities to grow your sat base, right? While the price is going sideways, go outside, touch some grass, enjoy the summer, take a break, unplug, still watch Simply Bitcoin, but take it easy. Take it easy, man. All right, everybody.
Chill by the pool.
Yeah, chill by the pool. It is summer. And I think by the end of this year and heading into next year, things are going to go absolutely bananas. But until then...
Yeah. Can I chime in a little bit, Nico?
Hit it, dude.
I'm again, I jokingly say it, I'm obviously not an 80 IQ person, but I'm an 80 IQ Bitcoiner. I keep it as simple as possible. And as far as I can tell, the cycle theory is still playing out. So I think this is very normal. Of course, we're all getting impatient. We all kind of feel the price bubbling and we're like, it's going to pop someday. But as I think all of us Bitcoiners have been around for a while, you really understand that when you start to feel this boredom right now, like then you know this is part of the process. And then in whatever next year or maybe the end of this year, the price is going to go crazy and you're going to be in like euphoric range. And again, I've been saying this for a long time about the billionaire FUD playbook. You know, they want to keep the price low so that they can stack Bitcoin. And so, of course, Wall Street's going to play their games to try to get as much Bitcoin as possible. Like, this is the game everyone's playing. This is the only game in town, is to try to scoop up as much cheap Bitcoin as possible so that you can build your stack. So I'm not surprised this is happening. Shouts out to James Lavish for putting it in terms that us non-traders, non-Wall Street people can understand. But for everyone else, it's going to make a run at some point. You just want to continue to stack. Make sure, like, boring is good. You want it to kind of be boring so that you can stack as much Bitcoin as possible, because bull run Bitcoin life is absolutely crazy. It does a number on you mentally just as much as a bear market does on you. And so these boring times are a good thing. You just want to continue to accumulate. Hence why we always tell you guys, it's a game of accumulation. Just buy consistently, whatever your finances allow. Make sure you're constantly buying. This isn't a one-time buy thing and then you're going to get rich. You just need to continue to stack sats. And also, I was reminded, you know, I wasn't able to do it on air, and I was trying to get Nico to do it on air, but we just did the IRL with James Checkmatey on Twitter.
So good.
Yeah, it was great. Incredible. I would highly recommend you guys go watch it. And his TLDR was basically like, this is healthy price movement for Bitcoin. This is a healthy market playing out. And then on the back end, he's been doing some threads on his Twitter. I think it's @_checkmatey that you can follow. And I asked him off air. I was trying to get it on air for you guys, but I asked him whether the ETFs actually had all that Bitcoin. And as far as the metrics that he can see, they have basically all the Bitcoin that they claim they're buying. So yes, they're playing paper games with Bitcoin in regards to what James Lavish was saying, but they are accumulating that Bitcoin. So at a certain point, like James Lavish was saying, it's going to rip. And once they realize that these fiat games aren't going to work, everyone's going to just pile into the trade, stack as much Bitcoin as possible. And again, I keep it simple. And I love that Willy Woo also kind of kept it simple. It's simple supply and demand dynamics. There's just more sellers than buyers right now. And it's a great opportunity for us. This is how Bitcoin gets distributed. Let the OGs make their gains, sell their Bitcoin to new entrants, and we accumulate our Bitcoin. It's the cost of tuition. It builds character. This is how you become a Bitcoiner, is by understanding these dynamics, going through the pain, stacking as much as possible. And of course, shouts out to Hotto. He's my favorite TA.
Dude, that was the best TA I've ever seen, man.
Ever. Just keep buying. It's super simple. We're all bored with the price, but that's why Bitcoin is so great, because while the price is boring, all the developers and the whole Bitcoin ecosystem can grow, and we get our tentacles in every aspect of society. And once it really starts running, like, the FOMO craze from retail and everyone else is just going to be mind blowing. And I think we're going to see that going into the end of the year. And of course, that's not even taking into account all the crazy macro stuff going on. Like, everyone is waking up to what we all know here at Simply Bitcoin and in the audience and on Bitcoin Twitter, is that the only game in town right now is saving in Bitcoin. It's trying to accumulate as much Bitcoin, because everything else is on the verge of either blowing up or it's just not going to give you the return. So just keep going, keep stacking. This is the way.
Amen. This is the way. All right, everybody. I give a very special shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Guys, stack friends who stack sats. Join the 10,826 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. The Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. This is the app where you're going to find fellow Bitcoiners near you. It has a very cool geographical feature. So if you're traveling, if you're in a new city, you don't know any Bitcoiners in town, you pull up the Orange Pill app. It will literally show you Bitcoiners near you. It'll give you the ability to message them. It has a cool filtration system, so you'll only find fellow Bitcoiners on the app, and it is the best way to reach me directly. So if you want to send me a DM, if you have a question, download the Orange Pill app, send me a DM. I don't answer Twitter DMs anymore, so find me on the Orange Pill app, guys. It's amazing. Great place to network. You can launch Bitcoin only events. You'll find they're going to have a special section for the Bitcoin 2024 conference. That's where you're going to find all the side events on the Orange Pill app. So download the Orange Pill app today. It's absolutely awesome. It's also a great way to potentially get connected with Opti. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. Lots to talk about.
The Daily Culture.
Personally, I swiped right, or what is it? I swiped left when I saw Opti pop up on my screen, but you know, everyone has different tastes. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor.
Hey, I'm not for everyone, but I'm for anyone.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, KABOOMRACKS, the most trusted place to buy and sell mining equipment. To check out their rack, scan the QR code on your screen. That'll take you directly to their Telegram marketplace, or you can connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You can also sell your mining equipment with them. Access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with KABOOMRACKS. What are you waiting for? Start your mining journey today. Also, check out their new offer. They're offering instant hosting for an S19K Pro. Your hash rate goes online after your payment is confirmed. You own the miner. This is not a hash rate contract. So if you want to start mining instantly, instant hosting, check out the special sale going on right now. It's live by KABOOMRACKS. Scan the QR code to find out more information. All right, man, I'm so excited because it's a Nico and Opti day today. I see you have a screen pulled up, the debt clock.
Yes.
Where are we going with this, bro?
All right. So bear with me, and it's really all right. Let me full screen this for a little bit. Just giving you guys context. If you watch this show, we probably say this like every other day. I know Nico has his favorite catchphrases of like the disintermediation of information, the Overton window. If you're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom, Bitcoin or slavery, and all that stuff. But one of the stuff, or why are we forced to use a money that steals from us? And so we're going to really kind of dive deep on that idea of why are we being forced to use a money that steals from us, but also put it in the lens of what we say all the time. Nico, what's the phrase you always use of fiat is a world of nihilism, pessimism, and I forget what it is, poverty, and Bitcoin?
Poverty, nihilism, despair, destruction, slavery, all the terrible things. That's what fiat embodies. Anyways, guys, there's only 131 likes. Make sure to smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Anyways, Opti.
Yes. So I saw this chart, and it really highlights that idea of fiat being the currency of war, being the currency of nihilism, pessimism, poverty, and all of that stuff. And of course, I do want to start with the US debt clock, because anytime I get an opportunity to bring this up, it's absolutely one of my favorite sites. So again, we're over here at usdebtclock.org, and you guys can see the US national debt is almost at $35 trillion. Wow. Amazing. So debt per citizen, $103K per person, debt per taxpayer, $266,000 per person. And then of course, the U.S. federal tax revenue, how much money they actually make from taxes or from taxing you is almost $5 trillion, $4.8 trillion. And that's not even taking into account Nico's favorite number over here, the U.S. unfunded liabilities of $216.5 trillion. So this goes, I think, fully flying in the face of everyone that says, oh, we just need to tax the rich more. Like if we tax the rich, if the rich paid their fair share, then we can finally pay off this national debt. And there's literally no feasible way to pay off the national debt. And it's just getting completely out of control. And so the reason I wanted to bring up the national debt is just to continue to highlight that number. We're almost at $35 trillion in debt in the United States. And if I remember correctly, it's probably higher at this point. But the last time I checked, we printed 40% of all the dollars ever created in 2020. And I'm sure it's probably higher at this point. But anyways, I brought all that up to basically show you this chart. So I'm over here on the fred.stlouisfed.org. This is the St. Louis Federal Reserve website. They have a lot of good charts about trying to, show you what's going on in the economy, give you all the quote unquote trusted expert numbers. Again, I would kind of venture to say that all these numbers are fake and they're probably off at some point. But anyways, with that being said, check this chart out. So we have right here, I don't know what color this is. Is this purple or is this blue? We have federal government, national debt, defense consumption expenditures, and gross investment. So you have the money we spend on national defense right here in blue. And then you have the government's current expenditures and interest payments. And for the first time ever, the interest payments have passed how much money we spend in national defense. So let me pull this in right now. And this really highlights what we say here all the time on the idea of fiat being the currency of war. What do we say? We always quote Ron Paul on the idea of it's no coincidence the last 100 years is the bloodiest century ever, because we had the money printer to continue to fund wars when we had no war chest. And now we finally got to the point where the interest payments, again, the interest payments on the national debt has surpassed the amount of money that we pay for the military industrial complex. Like, if that doesn't blow your mind, if that doesn't get you pissed off and make you want to opt out of this madness, then I really don't know like what world you're living in, because now the interest payments on our debt exceeds how much we pay on the US military. It just crossed over this year. It's getting, or rather at the very end of the last Q4 of last year, and it's continuing to exceed. So never in any point in the US history has our interest payments crossed how much it costs to get to pay for the whole entire military. All right, next. I brought another chart, of course, because I want to contrast this in regards to Bitcoin. And this is an old article, but I updated it for you guys. You know, the St. Louis Federal Reserve, they did this chart in the past a couple of years ago about buying eggs with Bitcoin. And they tried to basically make it seem like it was getting more expensive when you buy eggs in regards to Bitcoin. And then you put in the numbers yourself and you zoom out and you realize that life gets cheaper on a Bitcoin standard. And we always bring up priceinbitcoin21.com, but I like using their numbers because most people would probably think that, you're getting the official numbers, and it kind of drives the point home that if you're living on the Bitcoin standard, everything is getting cheaper. Your eggs are getting cheaper, your grocery prices are getting cheaper. And even if you zoom in, yes, you can see kind of the dips here. This is basically the 2020 pandemic dip. And then we had the dip here in 2022 in the bear markets, but it's all trending towards zero. Your life is getting cheaper if you are saving in Bitcoin. And if you're like we're talking about in the beginning, if you're an OG, like your life is becoming incredibly cheaper if you live on the Bitcoin standard. And it really just highlights what we say here on the show all the time as the idea of fiat currency is the currency of war, poverty, what pessimism, nihilism, and Bitcoin is the complete opposite. It is a currency of positivity, optimism. If you start saving in Bitcoin, your life gets cheaper. And of course, you get to defund all of this madness and you take your wealth, your labor, your life force out of the fiat system. Because I don't know about you, but they're going to continue to print money obscenely. They're going to continue to find reasons to send money to foreign countries, to make financial aid packages to pay off for whatever ridiculous new pet project they have. And they have to continue to print money. They have to continue to try to fund stuff so that they get political favor. And now the interest payment on the national debt has gotten higher than all of the money we pay for the military industrial complex. Like, that's absolutely mind blowing to me that we've gotten to this point. And they're going to continue to try to spend more money, not only for, military engagements, but just to keep the economy going right now. And those interest payments are going to continue to go up. Like, there is no possible way that we can pay off this national debt with our taxes. So just continue to opt out, save in Bitcoin, live a better life. We've been telling you this today, like, just tune out for the summertime, go enjoy your family, go enjoy real life. The person you're arguing with on Twitter will be there when you get back. And soon enough, the Bitcoin price will start to pump. Your life will get cheaper. People will start to wake up to the idea that we say here every single day, that Bitcoin is a worldview of hope. And I don't know, Nico, when I saw this chart, I was like, wow, that is absolutely incredible that the interest payments are more than we pay for the entire military. Like, if that isn't a perfect example of what we say here as fiat is the currency of war, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what's going to unplug people. I don't know how much pain people are going to have to feel to finally look for solutions. But the solution is here. It is Bitcoin. Save in Bitcoin. They cannot debase your currency. They can't fund their wars without basically your obligation and your consent to give them your Bitcoin. So as much as politicians want your Bitcoin, they're trying to take, Bitcoin for donations. Don't give them your Bitcoin, because you're just funneling your money back into the very system that we're trying to opt out of. Anyways, rant over. But yeah, man, that chart was absolutely incredible.
100%, man. I think that's like one of the things that actually James Lavish was bringing up, which is this idea of this debt spiral. And it's clear that the United States, the spending is on a unsustainable trajectory. And the way that you protect yourself from this is you get on the lifeboat, and you start saving in Bitcoin. Like, in 10 years, in 20 years, and you're already starting to see it, like they're going to be paying more in interest alone than they are going to be paying in actual expenses and yearly expenses. And look, I think no one deserves the power of the money printer. And I think as the government, continues to say they want to surveil every $600 transaction for their citizens, they play by a different set of rules. Like, the Pentagon loses billions of dollars. Where'd they go? When we pulled out of Afghanistan, we left like $13 billion worth of equipment. Oh, willy nilly. And then it's like, oh, but we're going to raise your taxes. And, that's the thing that you continue to hear that message over and over again. It's these greedy corporations. It's, eat the rich, like the whatever. It's like, no, the problem is that government is spending money it doesn't have. And it's going to continue to grow that the amount of money that they need to operate on a yearly basis is going to continue to grow, and they're going to continue to squeeze it out of their citizens. Like, that's the reality. So don't pay attention to the gaslighting. Has nothing to do with the rich, has nothing to do with greedy corporations. It has everything to do with the fact that the government is spending more money every single year than it collects in tax revenue. The government doesn't have a tax collecting problem. It has a spending problem, right? But this is the type of thing where, no one is better than their incentives. The way that you fix this is the separation of money and state. You take away the government's ability to spend money it doesn't have. And the way that you do that is by taking away the money printer out of their hands. I don't think we'll be able to do it politically. I don't think the willpower is there. I think, to borrow Hayek's quote, I think, which is we need to find a sly roundabout way, and that sly roundabout way is Bitcoin, right? So anyways, man, great episode. Guys, this was June 19, 2024. I'm your host, Nico. This is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. We'll be back tomorrow for the Thursday episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Until then, guys, go outside, touch grass, enjoy yourself. It's summer. We're going to be crabbing for a couple months, baby. So just unplug, relax, breathe. And remember, this desperation, this boredom that you feel, this feeling like, why is this moving? That's what they want you to feel. They want you to capitulate. Don't capitulate. Double down. Buy more Bitcoin. Stay humble. Stack sats. Stay solvent. This is how we win.
Wait, Nico. Before we go off, we did get a super chat. Shouts out to Mikkel. Super chat of $2. Why should the U.S. print money?
Exactly. That's such a really important question. Why should the government have the ability to create money for free that the rest of us has to work for? Let's keep hammering that message home. All right, everybody. Love you all. We'll see you on the next one.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.